joining you here week 4 of the National Football League on JAKIB Sports. And I'd like to welcome in, first time on This Week in Pro Football, Mike Lombardi, longtime NFL commentator and exec with the New England Patriots and 5 other NFL teams. You've seen Mike on NFL Network and read his stuff on NFL.com. Michael, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you. All right, Mike, let me start right in here. I don't know if you caught that little Dennis Miller limitation I was just doing there about replay. I think it's kind of broken, Mike, and I just wanted to get your quick take on it. Using the Tutu Atwell play on Monday Night Football, which clearly seemed to show that he was inbounds. The refs ruled him inbounds, and somehow New York overturned it. Are we turning replay into too much of a Zapruder film where everything is micro-analyzed instead of just using it to correct egregious errors?
Well, I mean, the Zapruder film was poorly analyzed, if you want to know the truth. I mean, we can't get to the bottom of that one, and that's been almost 50 years. So with film, look, anytime you try to, they say they're not going to overturn it based on, there has to be undisputed evidence. I mean, that call I didn't think should have gotten overturned. There's some that you just wonder. It seems like New York has full control regardless of what happens on the field, and they want to make sure they get it right. They don't want to have to acquiesce to something. I don't know if we're not seeing all the camera angles or what, but usually on a Monday night game like that, we do. Right. So, when I was a young man, Monday Night Football had the most cameras. Now they've mandated that every game has as many cameras. So we're getting all that. But unfortunately, they're still making mistakes. Look, the whole pass interference rule hasn't been right. I mean, it's like the baseball. It's like this the strike zone in baseball. Every week it's a different story. It's a different game. It's dependent on what the crew is. If you get Scott Novak, you're going to get so many calls. If you get John Hussey, you're going to get so many calls. If you get Ron Tolbert, you may not get those calls.
So I don't know. I just think you're right. There's consistency lacking there, but I just think the overreach sometimes is ridiculous to overturn that call Monday night. The other thing, Mike, I wanted to get your take on from week 3 was I thought some bizarre coaching decisions by Josh McDaniels Sunday night to kick a field goal down 5. And then the 2 coaches taking turns in the Chargers-Vikings game, making, I thought, ridiculous decisions, which almost cost the Chargers the game and did help to cost Minnesota the game. Are coaches overthinking it too? Or is analytics maybe slowing down or this process where there's less gut feel as opposed to doing things by the book?
Well, I mean, I think McDaniel's mistake, everybody focuses on the fourth down, the not taking the field goal with 2 minutes. I think his biggest mistake was not kicking the field goal with 13 minutes in the fourth quarter. Turned down points there, went for it on 4th and 8. He overcame a 2nd and 35 and got it to 4th and 8. That problem compounded the next problem.
Right.
So to me, we tend to focus on the wrong problems. Nobody mentions that Mike McCarthy turned down a kick early in the fourth quarter, and he's chasing points ever since then. Right. And that really came back to bite him. As for Brendan Staley, look, the guy, the situation was wrong in the sense that, these people put these analytical numbers up on the board and they say, Pat, 88% if he goes for it and gets it,
right,
they win. 82% if he punts, they win.
Right.
Well, okay, we know the punt, that's a result. But what's the play call for 88%?
Yeah.
Is it fullback belly?
Yeah.
Because they only had 7 incomplete passes the entire day. So, and the Minnesota Vikings only touched the ball 3 times. So we don't have applied analytics. That's the problem. Like, what's the play call? What's the play? All these people that say Justin Fields isn't in the right offense. Okay, tell me what offense he should be in. You call plays for him.
Right.
Okay? Right. You tell me how to call plays for Zach Wilson. We had some guy on the Worldwide Leader today saying it's not Zach Wilson's fault because he played quarterback in the NFL. He doesn't know what he's looking at. Right. I mean, he doesn't have any idea what he's looking at. And because he played the position, he thinks he has credibility. Well, if you can't see what you're seeing, tell me what offense you want to run. Tell me what play call you want me to run. They say if you get an 11 personnel that that's what you need to throw the football. But if your right tackle can't block,
this on the web, for they say
if the right tackle can't block,
then you got real problems.
Yeah,
You
and that
can't
was
throw the
evident
ball.
Monday night. The same that exact thing was
I'm not
evident
sure I
Monday night
understand.
when Matt Stafford was getting crushed by Trey Hendrickson because his left tackle couldn't block anybody. So
And that was the backup left tackle.
Right,
and
I
that's
know,
when the
I
game
know.
fell apart, you know,
Yeah.
and so that's the Rams' problem. They have no
Right.
depth in their line. They
That's
lose one guy, it's over.
I know. Talking with Mike Lombardi here. Michael, here's a question that those of us here in the parochial town of Philadelphia want to know. Is the brotherly shove a legal play or not?
Well, I always thought it wasn't. I didn't think you could play rugby in the NFL. I didn't think you could aid the runner from behind.
Yeah.
But they say it's legal. And if they say it's legal and the Eagles discover that it's legal, why get mad at them? You know, they looked at the competition committee, looked at this play this offseason, and they said it was okay. I thought when we moved from the T formation to the single wing, from the single wing to the T formation, when Clark Shaughnessy invented the T and we put the quarterback, we took the rugby element out of the game. I didn't think you could push the runner from behind.
No,
I thought that was against the rules, but obviously it's not. And so credit the Eagles, and you can't stop it. I mean, you can say, "Oh, get lower, get higher." And then they have enough stuff off of it. If you want to play it inside, they toss it out.
No.
Look, credit them for finding it, inventing it. I don't know if
I don't understand, Mike. Yeah, why other teams don't just replicate it?
They do. They do try to do it, but they don't have a quarterback that can squat 600 pounds like Hurt, who gets that leg drive in there.
That is true. That might help. Yeah.
That's where it gets its power from, his ability to generate that. Yeah. When New England does it with Mac Jones, it doesn't have the same oomph.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But you're hearing a lot of talk about Jalen Hurts being off to a slower start, Mike, this year than last year. You think that talk is fair? The Eagles are 3-0, and they're beating. I think you could use the word comfortably, defeating the teams that are presented to them. Is there any substance to this talk about Hurts?
Well, I mean, the numbers don't lie, Pat. And his numbers are not the same as they were last year, but they are undefeated. They haven't played their best game. Their passing game is nowhere near where it was last year. I mean, they're 18th in yards per attempt in the league right now. They're 23rd in yards passing. I mean, so they're 18th in touchdowns. I mean, so look, they haven't been there. Now their pass defense is nowhere near where it needs to be either. I mean, most people think, that they're playing flawless. They're 3-0. They had a chance. That Patriot game was a good win for them, but that was the lowest output they had offensively going back to Tampa in 2022.
Okay.
I mean, in October of 22, that was the lowest output they had. They only had 17 first downs in that game. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think they're playing at the same level, but it's September. We know they don't play the preseason.
They don't play a preseason. Right.
So they're going to have to get it. But they're running the football effectively. They're the number one team in rushing attempts. Yeah. Their defense is the number 2 team in the league in facing rushing attempts.
Yeah.
And so, I think to me, they have to, and they're really good at, nobody can really run the ball on them. So, I mean, they haven't given up. I think they've given up, probably like 140 yards in 3 games on the ground.
Yeah. They're a tough team, Mike. I'm not pushing any kind of panic button on Jalen Hurts right now. We'll see. I mean, the Eagles got to get pushed into a corner first. They really haven't been yet this season. Michael.
Well, I mean, look, the schedule's pretty. They got Washington at home. Then they go on the road to the Rams. They come back against the Jets. And then they'll go play a really good team at home against Miami.
Right. Mike, talking the Eagles' opponent this Sunday is the Washington Commanders. A lot of good feeling in Washington until Buffalo arrived and put a number on them. To quote Dennis Green, is Washington who we thought they were in terms of being the number 4 team in the NFC East?
Well, I think Washington has some really good strengths to their team, but they also have severe weaknesses, which have been their weaknesses for a while. I mean, even last year in the game they beat Philly, and I mean, Philly got one of their touchdowns on a strip sack. Their left tackle Leno isn't a very good left tackle. Their right tackle Andrew Wiley, they signed from the Chiefs. He got beat last week. They gave up 9 sacks last week. Yeah. This offensive line, Pat's not good enough, and their young quarterback got hit too much.
and they want to throw the ball, much like Kansas City wants to throw the football, but that's not something this young quarterback can do. He takes too many hits. He's been sacked way too much. Last year when they came into Philly, what did they do? If you remember the game, they ran the ball on first.
They ran the ball and controlled the clock.
They got 4 yards, got 4 yards, got 3 yards, got 4 yards. They controlled the clock.
Right.
And that's not something. Now, the last 2 weeks of the season, they have not been good defensively. They've given up 120 yards to Denver on the ground. They gave up 168 to Buffalo on the ground.
Yeah.
And they turned the ball over.
Right.
I mean, they could easily be 1-2. They turned the ball over 3 times against Arizona and won. They turned the ball 5 times against Buffalo and lost.
Right. There you go. Arizona and Denver. Then you get Buffalo. It's a rude awakening. Michael, before I let you go, let me look around the league here with you. I just wanted to focus on the 0-3 teams. You mentioned Justin Fields. The Bears, to me, they look like they're in some disarray right now. What are your thoughts on Fields? I hear this too. He's in the wrong offense. I'm just not sure he's a terrific an NFL quarterback. Your thoughts on the 0-3 Bears and the 0-3 Broncos? Is there any hope for either of those teams this year?
Well, look, I've been on my podcast, the GM Shuffle, and on my show, the Lombardi Line, I've been clear about Justin Fields. I mean, anytime you have 28 starts in the NFL, you pretty much know who the quarterback is. He good or bad? C.J. Stroud's third game of his NFL career threw for 280 yards and got a win. Justin Fields has never done that in 28 starts. Yeah. He cannot throw the football effectively enough. Yeah. Can he run it? Yeah. But he's a turnover machine.
That's right.
Pat, he's been sacked 104 times. He's already been sacked 13 times. Yeah. He fumbles on a regular basis. His interception percentage is too high, But it's funny. If you compare Davis Mills' stats at Houston to Justin Fields' stats in Chicago, they were identical. One team proclaimed they need a quarterback. The other team thought they had a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
So it's all that. Denver, to me, is disappointing. I thought Sean would be able to go in there and get them back, but their defensive talent is not good enough. Right. And they looked, as bad as that score looked, 70-20, it looked worse on film.
Wow. That was a shocking game Sunday. And then the other team, though, Minnesota, only a minus 13-point differential. They've lost 3 one-score games. Is there hope yet? And that's a tepid division, I would say, Mike, unless you think differently. Mm-hmm. But I think that Minnesota can claw their way back. Can they do it?
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, look, if I said to you, who's had more yards passing, Tua or Kirk Cousins, who would you say?
Well, you would say Tua, but I think it's Kirk.
It is Kirk. I mean, they've had 7 fumbles already, Pat. You can't turn the ball over like that. And they've had 6 turnovers in the red zone. You can't turn the ball over like that. So if they straighten that out, they're not great on defense, but if they can straighten that out and not give the game away, their offense is prolific. I mean, Jefferson's great. Jefferson is great.
Yeah. That's right. It's that's a team I think still might be heard from, Michael. But listen, Michael, I want to thank you very much. Please mention again the podcast and the show you got. Where can people find Mike Lombardi every week for the NFL?
You can find me on the VSiN DraftKings Network. It's the Lombardi Line. It's Monday through Friday, 1 to 3. On weekends, we're 10 to 12. And my podcast is the GM Shuffle, and my new book is called Football Done Right. It's out wherever you get books, wherever you buy your books. It's about the history of the NFL, top 10 coaches, how the coaching tree started, and of course the top 100 players.
I want to tell you too that Sal Powell, who's a regular on this show, he told me, he ordered me to get that book. He says it's an excellent book, and I will certainly do that. And Michael, I want to thank you for taking the time tonight. It was a great conversation, and I look forward to having you back again before the season's over. All right.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks very much. The great Mike Lombardi joining me for what I thought was a very interesting discussion around the NFL and about Jalen Hurts and about the Washington Commanders. We'll explore that game much further. With my next guest after this break, we'll be talking with the great Sean Green from SGPN and the Sports Gambling Podcast. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts and some props on that game. We'll go around the NFL again on This Week in Pro Football.